Thanks for tuning in to Bourbon Drop. I'm your host, Myron. Today, we've got two bottles that I've never had on the channel before. Uncle Nearest Premium 1856 Whiskey and the RYE. I did do a recording of this video last year and never released it, so I figured today, why not give you guys a 2-for-1 special? Let's get it.
Bottle drop, bottle drop, bottle drop.
If you do not know the story of Neerest Green, he was a former slave who actually taught Jack Daniels how to make bourbon whiskey, but put it through the Lincoln County process, which then makes it Tennessee whiskey. So that whole charcoal maple filtering process that he taught Jack how to put the whiskey through, he was very, very known for his process, and some people think that he perfected it. So I don't want to say that he created it because no one really knows when that Lincoln County process was ever started. I just know that Fawn Weaver happens to be a black female CEO who went on a trip with her husband, and on vacation she sees a picture of Jack Daniels standing beside another gentleman, and she's like, well, who was that? Come to find out, that was, I believe it was his grandson at the time, not great-grandson, grandson at the time. So she digs deeper into the story, finds out, it leads her all the way back to Lynchburg, Tennessee. She finds out who Nathan Green is, and like I said, it turns out he was a former slave who taught Jack Daniels how to make whiskey. And another cool thing is his great-great-granddaughter is a 5th generation master distiller, and she's actually doing the master distilling for Uncle Nearest. So that is one cool story, and it's even on the front of the bottle. It says, my great-great-grandfather always did everything with excellence, and he would be so proud of this premium rye. Now, you don't find a lot about their mash bill. The company was started in 2017. They have started making their own product, and they have started introducing some of that product into the whiskey that they get. Now, the 1856, according to Breaking Bourbon, when they did an interview with Fawn Weaver, actually changes. So there's no real set mash bill. There's kind of like, it's a high corn, and then they use different levels of malt depending on different times of the year. They blended with, I believe is like, they blended from 6 different companies, now including their own. If you look on the back of the bottle on both of these come from totally different places. So 1856, distilled and aged in Tennessee, bottled by Neerest Green Distillery. The RYE just says product of Canada, aged in New York and Tennessee, aged and bottled by the Neerest Green Distillery, Shelbyville, Tennessee. So both of these, you know, for the most part, are aged in Tennessee. This one is aged and distilled in Tennessee, and it does contain some of their distillate. Like I said before, I did a review on this thing a while back, meant to get it on the channel, never got a chance to. The 1856, never got a chance to either put that one on channel either. I was kind of chasing their single barrel, man. I wanted that thing. Shout out to Gray. I got to get up with Gray. Gray has it, and I've got to get it because that is something, like I said, that is one thing that I am actually chasing this year. So, as always, I will get into the RYE first because, like I told you guys before, if you watch this channel, you know that after I drink a whiskey or bourbon, once I go to a RYE, I start to pick up grassy notes that I do not like. So, let's get into the nose of the RYE. Ooh, like a nice sweet, like candy corn. I'm getting like that candy corn. Sometimes I get that candy corn note in the Benchmark products. There's a nice sweet corn. There's almost like a moonshine note in there too. Like moonshine white dog. A little bit of like a clay note, earthy clay. And that's pretty much it. Let's go into the nose of the 1856. Now, both of these come in at 100 proof, so I am not expecting them to burn me up. The nose is actually a little floral. I don't get much out of this nose at all. It's floral. That could be due to the ethanol, but it's not like an ethanol punch. It just comes across more of like floral. Maybe a touch of oak and citrus. And that's pretty much it. Let's get into the palate of the Uncle Nearest Rye. Sweet, peppery, a little bit of, I would say, just a touch of char. More pepper than char, but it's a touch of char. Peppery, there's a light raisin note. Really nice light raisin note. Now, I did buy this bottle on my own. The folks over at Uncle Nearest were nice enough to send me this bottle. Like I said, lately I've been reaching out to companies and telling them, hey, I'm a small YouTube channel and, you know, I've got a growing audience and, you know, I would love to put your bottles on this channel. And like I said, I've been having some positive responses and some of those companies have actually been sending me bottles. So thank you, Uncle Nearest. I really appreciate you letting me get this bottle to put on the channel. Let's go back into the palate. Before I ruin my palate, let's go back into the palate of the rye one more time because I don't want to go back. If I do go back, that grass note pops up and it ruins it for me. Still the same thing on the nose. It almost turned into like a grapefruit now though, like a grapefruit juice. A nuttiness, a little bit of that, what I said was like that moonshine, a little bit of that moonshine note. Some of that like moonshine, white dog. And a little bit of that candy corn note. All right, let's go back into the palate. I went into the nose. Let's go back into the palate. Peppery. It's got this raisin from the front to the mid and creeps all the way to the back. It blends well with that pepper though. I really do like that pepper spice that it has on there. That char in the back is very light. I'm starting to pick up like almost like a little bit of a citrus note on there too. Maybe I would say maybe just a little bit of a creamy note. The mouthfeel is not bad. It comes in at 100 proof. I would say it's like in between thin and medium. It's nothing that's you're gonna call oily. Let's put it that way. All right, time for me to get into the palate of the 1856. That's spicy. A nice vanilla sweetness. I'm almost picking up a little bit of cherry, and that's surprising because when I first cracked this thing, I did not pick that up. That could be due to the rye influence that I just had, but I've never picked up cherry out of this bottle before. Now, the first 1856 that I ever had, I picked up on my own. So, you know, and the way that they do their batches and mash bills, it was a completely different profile. I did not really care for that one. And I was a little hesitant to put these bottles on the channel. I saw this one sitting in the store, grabbed it, because I do like rye, and I said I just want to give it a chance. Got it home, and as you can see, I am liking it. This one right here, it is not the same, in my opinion, as the first bottle that I ever got from Uncle Nearest. That bottle was a little weird. Right now, I am kind of enjoying this one. Let's go back into the palate one more time. I would say this is a little thinner though. So this is nutty. It has a little bit of that raisin note too. I am not picking up anything that is like blowing me away. so far it is not turning me off. It's a little, I would say, weaker than the rye. It doesn't, for some reason, and maybe because I'm coming off the rye, I was picking up that little bit of cherry, but that cherry just kind of went away really fast. Mouthfeel on this one, I would say, is kind of thin. It does have a little bit of a vanilla sweetness going on. I want to pour myself just a little bit more to see if it's the rye that is influencing my palate right now, because I'm not picking up much off of this. Let's go back into it one more time. Nutty, spicy. It does, like I said, it has that raisin in it too. It is nothing that's blowing me away though. Is it a decent pour at 100 proof? Yes, but I think you have to like something nutty, and I think you have to be, because they call it an ultra premium whiskey. It doesn't necessarily say bourbon. We know that bourbon has to be at least 51% corn. I believe this thing, just doing a little bit of research online, has a very, very high corn content, and they also use malted corn, and they also use rye. So I mean malted barley. So that might be why the profile is so different. I am not saying that it's a bad profile. It leaves me wanting a little more. Like, I have high hopes for the single barrel. But as of right now, I'd like to get into the breakdown of both of these so I can give you my clear thoughts on them. So let's get into the breakdown. We are not going to discuss a chase. These are on the Shelf Life series for a reason, because you see them all over the place. They are always on the shelf. Every store that I go into, I see them. The rye, I'm a fan of the rye. I'm really digging the rye. I would say if you haven't had the Uncle Nearest rye, to go out and get it. So we are also going to get into, are they worth retail? 55 to 60 bucks depending on where you go. Same thing here, 55 to 60 bucks depending on where you go. You guys know my $60 monster, that is Old Forester 1920. Do they live up to the shoes of Old Forester 1920? It's kind of hard to compare when it comes to something that's 115 proof, but I'm gonna have to tell you flat out, no, they do not. You do have to be a rye lover. I think this rye is really good. It's got some sweetness going on. It's got a nice spice kick going on. I really do enjoy it. Nice raisin notes. This one right here, I don't want to tell you that you are getting your 60 bucks worth. You have to like a nutty note. It's nutty. It's a little bland on the palate. I don't think there's a lot going on. Let me give it one more shot. Some sweetness, but that nutty note, and there's almost this. And you guys know how I feel about licorice. Now I'm starting to pick up a little bit of a licorice note. There's almost this licorice note in there too, like a black licorice or a anise note that I just don't dig. So at first I was kind of, I guess the rye kind of overpowered that note and I couldn't taste it. But at first I was kind of liking it, but right now I am not as joyful about it as I was in the beginning. Who are they for? Now, these are both 100 proof, so I would say that they are for your beginner to intermediate bourbon drinker. Someone who can take 100 proof, knock it down without a problem. I don't think it would be offensive to a new bourbon drinker, someone who's coming off of, other spirits that are in the 80 proof range, or someone who likes 90 proof bourbons. I think they'll be able to handle these without an issue. Now, when it comes to flavor, who are they for? That I really can't tell you. Rye, when it comes to the bourbon world, is very divisive. You got some people that love ryes and some people that hate ryes. Me, myself, I like ryes. I like ryes a lot, especially the Jack Daniel's single barrel proof rye. You guys know that is like my #1 rye of like all time. Anyway, getting back to this rye. So you have to be a rye lover to like this. It does offer some sweet notes. I don't find this offensive at all. Me, considering myself somewhat an experienced bourbon drinker, it still had enough, I would say, viscosity on the palate to be enjoyable with the sweet notes, the pepper notes. The 100 proof 1856, you have to be like a real Tennessee whiskey lover. I mean, this thing right here, it is as different from bourbon as you can get. It shares none of the similarities with bourbon. The further I got down in the glass and the more that the rye kind of went away, it left me with the actual 1856, and it is just something about a little bit of that licorice note that I don't know. It does have some nice pepper on it, and almost finishes with a nice sweet leather on the back end. But it is just not something that I would have to say that I think is worth that retail price. Now, will it always be on a bar? I like this. I've been holding off on doing a review of this because, like I said, I didn't release the other one. I just had so much material, dude. I am so backed up on on videos that I need to edit. But I do like this one a lot. I just been holding off on it. It is good. You see, I have been getting into it a little bit, but I've been nipping out of it because I've been trying to save it for another review. This one right here, this one will not be back on the bar. Once I am done with it, I am done with it. And with that being said, let the whiskey flow. Never run out, let you head it to a drop. Till next time.